This week on Barely Homesteading, we want to talk about a natural rock retaining wall. So up here in the mountains of Colorado, we have quite a bit of elevation change on our property. And on this east side of the house, we've always had quite a bit of a slope away from the house. You can see how quickly it drops off back here behind the house. And so underneath our deck, that slope has always made this area under the deck pretty hard to utilize. So we wanted to put in a retaining wall to be able to level out this entire area and make it more useful. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, so for the first layer of the retaining wall, we weren't able to get video for that. I'll show you what we did. So we've got this natural stone that we're using for the retaining wall. Now you can use the synthetic retaining wall or the synthetic stone. That's fine. It actually will be quicker to put in, but that costs money, and we've got the natural stone available, so that's what we're using. So we put in the natural stone such a way that they overlap as much as possible to reduce the gaps between the stone. That's going to prevent erosion, and it's also going to prevent weeds from being able to get a foothold in those cracks and grow out. We're still going to get some, but it's going to reduce it quite a bit. And then once we got that first layer in, we backfilled it with dirt and rock. Now our dirt up here is pretty rocky, and because of the rockiness of the soil, we really don't need to put in any additional drainage considerations because the water just seeps through the soil so quickly. So now we're working on the second tier, the second part of the second level of the wall, getting the stones in, and then we will come in and backfill that level. All right, so we are doing all of this work for the retaining wall with no power equipment. We don't have a tractor, we don't have a front loader or anything, and so we're just brute forcing it to move the rocks from our rock pile over here to where we're actually putting in the retaining wall. so we've got the retaining wall in. We still have quite a bit of backfilling to do, but I wanted to show you. So along the length of the house, we are pretty much level. We are sloping slightly toward the retaining wall, which is good. And then in the other direction, we are sloping away from the house, which is what we want. We want to slope away from the house so that as we get rain, the rain wants to go away from the house, not toward the foundation. And as you can see, we've got quite a bit of slope. So not worried about drainage here. In fact, we probably don't even have to bring it all the way up to the top on this rock that's next to the foundation. So when placing the rocks for the retaining wall, we want to try to stagger the gaps between the rocks so that they don't line up if at all possible. So you can see here this gap on the bottom. The next tier up, the gap is shifted off. Next tier up, the gap is shifted again. And then the next tier up, the gap is shifted again as well. Now, that's not always possible. You can see here the gap between that top tier and the next one down. Right there, line up pretty close, and that's just because you have to work with the rocks you have. But as much as you can, you want to try to offset those gaps, splits in the wall, in order to get more stable wall and less likely to cause problems later on. All right, so we got the main retaining wall put in on this right-hand side underneath the deck. Now we're going to put in some smaller retaining walls here on the middle and the left-hand section so that we can even out this entire area under the deck. All right, so we've got the rock retaining wall in place all along the front and that far side. We've got everything with an initial backfill. Just from looking at it, it looks like we've done pretty well in sloping it away from the house, and it's also sloping, as you see it, from left to right. And you can see that line of where the ground is dropping down left to right relative to the stucco of the house. I've given it a good soaking. We're going to let it sit over lunchtime and settle, and then we'll come out with the level and start looking at where low spots are and where we might need to raise up just a little bit. But other than that, I think we're just about done. So as you can see, we put back together everything underneath our deck now that we've got the retaining wall in and the backfilling done. Now it's not perfectly flat as you saw before, but it's definitely better than it was, and we'll be able to utilize this space far more efficiently now. And as you can see, we've already been able to put some things back on here and get them under the deck so they're a little more protected and off the grass. And so this is going to work out much better than what we had before. And so thank you for joining us on this journey and this project. For Barely Homesteading, this is Lumberjack saying use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.